Jumbo, everybody. Hi. My name is Kristen. I'm going to be your safari guide for this journey out through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. We're about to go get a glimpse of Africa, including some of the most amazing animals. So you can feel free to have cameras out and ready to try to take pictures. If you're going to do that, I recommend high-speed settings. There are several areas on the reserve where we are not allowed to stop. Even when we are allowed to stop, it's only going to be for just a few seconds. So an action or sports setting, something with a high shutter speed. Even video usually works the best. I also recommend that you hold on to those cameras and all of your other personal belongings very tightly. We are not allowed to stop inside the reserve for anything that falls outside of the truck. It could be a while before we see any dropped item again, and most likely you will not be getting the item back in the same condition that you last saw it in. Animals are curious. They are not as gentle with things as we are. But we are going to go get started right away, heading deep into the Little Ituri Forest. Forests like this one are home to many different types of animals. Their natural colorings and markings can blend them in really well, so we've got to keep a sharp eye out. More than once, we've been just a few yards away from an animal before we noticed it hiding in the bushes. Like the animal's hiding out to the right. All the way up on top of the hill to the right, you might see some okapi hiding behind the trees. Okapi are kind of reclusive animals. They're a little bit shy. They were not first discovered by the Western world until 1901, which is pretty recent, relatively speaking. It also didn't help that nobody really believed them when they told people what they found. But that's because they told people they found a tall, dark brown animal with the legs of a zebra and the head of a giraffe. Everyone thought they were making it up. If you look out to the right, you can see that they weren't. It's the okapi. They're the only living relative of the giraffe because of the shape of their heads. Now, towards the front left corner of the truck, going to be on the right-hand side of the road, on top of the hill, sticking out of the bushes, you might see some horns. That's a bongo up there. We're going to loop around, see if maybe we can find a few more of them, but bongos are also known as the ghosts of the forest. They love to stay hidden away. A little easier to see out to the left would be the black rhino by the rock wall. It's a lot larger. They weigh about 3,000 pounds at their full growth. Unfortunately, the black rhino are still a really rare view. It's because they've been hunted nearly to extinction. Fewer than 5,000 of those beautiful animals are left in the world. Our reserve has been trying to change that. We work with groups in Zimbabwe. They monitor the rhino. They also provide veterinary treatment as needed. Hopefully they will not remain such a rare view. Over to the right, a few more beautiful views of bongos up on top of the hill. Both male and female bongos will grow those back-swept horns. It helps them get through all the dense vegetation they call home. Towards the front left corner of the truck, down the dirt pathway, you might see a rather large black and white bird. Now, that's a saddle-billed stork. I know it's kind of hard to see from here, but that bird is sitting on the equivalent of its knees. When it stands upright fully, it stands about 5 feet tall. They have a wingspan almost 9 feet wide. To give you a little perspective, that is almost as wide as this truck. I still want to find a few more of the larger animals, so we're going to head out to the Safi River. That's my favorite spot to go look for hippos. Typically, we get much better hippo spottings up ahead to the left. So if you're on the left, please don't worry yet. The better is a relative term. You might see a dark shape under the water to the right. You might see some ears sticking up past the island out to the right. They can stay completely under the water for about 8 minutes at a time before they need to come up for air. Hippos typically don't climb out of the water until nighttime when it's a little cooler to eat food. Each hippo eats between 80 and 90 pounds of grass a night. And sure enough, there's a whole group sleeping in the water out to the left, just to the left of the island. They'll spend their day sleeping. They can sleep under the water. They will automatically come up for air when they need it. Sometimes they'll go right back under without waking up. It's a reflex they have. It's kind of neat. Also kind of interesting are these big gray-white birds up on top of the islands and swimming around. These are pink-backed pelicans. They get the name because during mating season their back turns a light pink color. And they blush. I'm a little bit more worried about the next animal. We're about to drive over a really rickety bridge, and as we make our way across this bridge, if you look out to the left, those are Nile crocodiles. They can snap the bones of their prey with their powerful jaws that have a crushing force of over 2,000 pounds per square inch. They will even go after prey larger than themselves, like zebra and wildebeest. But by larger, I mean bigger or taller, not necessarily longer. From the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, this crocodile average about 16 feet long. We're headed away from those rivers, out towards a completely different ecosystem with completely different animals. We're gonna head to the savannah next. Speaking of different, view of a different kind of tree on the right, known as the baobab. Also known as the upside down tree, so you know which one it is. Kind of looks like it's got its roots sticking up in the air. Not really roots, of course, they are branches. Baobabs go leafless about 9 months out of the year to conserve water. We should find some more of them out in the savannah, so we're going to keep driving around. As we drive around this corner, it's our first view of the savannah, the Serengeti grasslands. These grasslands stretch for miles across East Africa. They're home to millions of migrating animals every year. We're going to start to see some already. There is a group of zebras coming up on the right. Biggest question I always get with zebras, are they black with white or white with black? It's a pretty easy way to remember the difference. The noses give it away. Black noses. Black animals. White stripes. These are Hartman Mountain zebra. Different types of zebra have different types of stripes, but no two individuals are exactly the same. They're each unique in their pattern. Like people have their own unique fingerprints. That's how you can tell them all apart from one another. Now, there's a lot of other animals out in the distance to the right. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. Feel free to keep looking at them. On the left, we're at one of the edges of the reserve. You might see some fences between the tall bushes. I'm still keeping an eye out past the fencing. We've been hearing rumors of African wild dogs roaming around near the edge of our reserve. They're a little harder to find because of their coloring, but there's a pack of them towards the front left of the truck, just to the right of the cave. The black, white, kind of orange and brown color mixed together. They usually hunt during the early mornings and again in the late afternoons when the rising and setting sun makes them almost completely disappear. They'll spend the rest of their day relaxing. Easier to see would be the animals on both sides of the road with the massive horns. These are Ankoli cattle. Their horns can reach up to 6 feet long. In the distance, there are also some sable antelope out to the left. Those are all girls. The boys' horns also get a little longer, reach a maximum length about 5 feet. The boys also darken as they age. The dominant male gets to be so dark brown he looks black. The gray animals over to the right, part of a group of wildebeest. I say part of a group because they're one of the largest migrations in Africa. Usually thousands are in a single grouping. But I know, it's the baby giraffe out to the right that are probably more exciting. This is bringing us towards a group quite appropriately known as a tower. It's a tower of giraffes, and that is appropriate because they start out pretty big. Baby giraffes stand 6 feet tall when they're born. It means they can look into the eyes of any full-grown adult human standing in the grasses next to them from birth. Now, based off the size, the 2 smallest ones out here are probably just a couple of months old. They will get much bigger. At their full growth, giraffes can stand up to 20 feet tall, but this particular type tend to be a little bit smaller. These are Maasai giraffes. They tend to max out between 16 and 18 feet tall. They average somewhat shorter than that. Just like people, giraffes have height ranges. Kind of neat. Some more beautiful views of zebra out to the left. And towards the front right corner of the truck, these tiny light tan antelope with the white faces and undersides are full-grown springbok. They only stand 3 feet tall. They weigh no more than 100 pounds. They'll jump 6 feet in the air repeatedly when frightened. They literally spring from place to place. Have fun. They can also jump 10 to 11.5 feet forward in a single bound. That's impressive because when they jump, all 4 of their little legs come off the ground at the same time. It's called trunking. It's kind of fun to watch. It's a little rare to see on a safe place like our reserve. This is going to bring us out towards Monkey Point next. Coming up on the left, Monkey Point gets its name for a group of mandrills that have taken up residence in the abandoned camp. Incredibly social amongst themselves. Mandrills are very, very shy to outsiders like us. We're going to be looking for motion. I actually wouldn't blame you if instead of looking for monkeys hiding out to the left, you want to look for elephants out to the right. We are also approaching elephant country. They're a little bit larger, sometimes easier to see. Yeah, like the herd out to the right. To the left, there are some mandrills in between the trees. They're the largest of the monkey species, but looking at these girls, you can see that's not saying much. The girls weigh about 35 pounds at the most. Boys would be twice the size, average about 55 pounds. The dominant male, twice the size of that, weighs about 100, and the baby, picking on the others, is just kind of cute. Of course, the elephants out to the right are still much larger. Unfortunately, the biggest threats to elephants are still people, still being hunted for their ivory tusks. They also face habitat loss due to mining going on out in the Congo. Miners are looking for an ore called coltan. Coltan's used in electronics, like cell phones, laptops, tablets, things like that. So if you want to help out elephants, the other animals that live in the Congo, please feel free to recycle electronics when you're finished with them. It reduces the need for the ores and it helps the animals keep their habitat. Our reserve has also been trying to decrease the amount of poaching going on, but unfortunately, that's a lot harder. The reason it's so difficult is because while elephants are beautiful animals to look at, they're also pest animals, and they're rather large pests. They destroy farmers' crops and thus their livelihood, which really doesn't make the farmers very happy with the elephants. So our reserve had been studying elephant communication to see if we could figure out a solution. In the course of our studies, we discovered something kind of interesting. Apparently, elephants are afraid of bees. They won't go anywhere near trees that have beehives in them. They even have a low rumbling vocalization they use to warn the rest of their herd out of an area that they see or hear bees in. Just like that, they don't want to get stuck. So we started encouraging farmers to put beehives along their fences. Not only does it keep the elephants, like the herd to the left, out of the farmers' crops, it also gives the farmers the added crop of honey and honeycomb they can sell. I think it's kind of a neat solution. There's a little bit of a win for everybody involved. This brings us around towards a few more of the local watering holes. In this area, there's usually a couple of different types of birds. I know most birds are not really exciting to look at. There's a flamboyant towards the front right corner of the truck, coming up on the left. There's a group of flamingos. These are greater flamingos. They're the largest and lightest pink of the flamingo species. And if you look closely, you're going to notice that not all of the flamingos out to the left are pink. The gray ones with the long, skinny gray-black legs, those ones are younger than the rest. Based off of size and color, the gray flamingos are probably between 3 to 6 months old. I know, they don't look like babies. It's because they get big very quickly. They reach their full growth after just a month or two. It's going to take a year or two before they get their full pink color again. Here's the front right corner of the track, and on the left, there's also a herd of scimitar-horned oryx out here. Those are desert antelope, as you can probably tell from the coloring, but they can go about 9 months out of every year without having to drink any water at all. Just to the left of the oryx, there's a group of white rhinos. Much, much larger than black rhino. White rhino weigh between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds at their full growth. We're going to get a little closer. And you might notice, I call them white rhino. Compared to the antelope, they're not actually the color white. It's a funny story. Under the mud, they're pretty much the same color as the black rhino. They got their name from a miscommunication. Native Dutch settlers in Africa called them wijd. It's the Afrikaans word for wide, talking about the wide square mouths they have, as opposed to the triangular shaped mouth the black rhino has. English settlers came in, heard them saying white rhino, with all the accents involved, thought they were saying white rhino, and the name stuck. So they're now officially the white rhino, for no particular reason at all. But we're not the only ones looking at the animals out here. Towards the front left of the truck, walking around on top of the hill, there's a cheetah. The cheetah have been causing a lot of trouble in Namibia hunting livestock. The farmers out there have been hunting the cheetah to protect their livestock. It's not a good solution because the cheetah, like the one walking around straight out to the left or the one on top of the hill towards the front left of the truck, they're endangered. Our reserve supports training programs that train really large dogs called Anatolian Shepherds and Kengal dogs. The dogs are huge. They scare the cheetah away from the livestock without endangering the cats, saving their lives. I think it's neat, the dogs saving the cats out there. To the right, kind of hiding in the bushes, you might see some antelope. Those are waterbuck. Waterbuck tend not to migrate too very far. They find a nice aquatic area, a place with lots of water. They just kind of hang out. That's the name, waterbuck. But out to the left, there's a lion up on the hill. It's really rare to see them out and about during the daytime. Lions spend 18 to 20 hours a day inactive, remaining very, very still. They're usually more active at nighttime. Not only is it usually cooler at night, they have excellent night vision. They can see 6 to almost 7 times better than humans can at night. And it's the girls that do the hunting. The boy closer to us stays back to protect the young ones and the rest of the group. That's how they have their work divided up. They're the only large cat to hunt in large groups, so they have stay-at-home dads. Towards the front right corner of the track, coming up on the left, I do see some large burrows in the ground. These large holes are most likely warthog burrows. Warthogs are the largest of the burrowing mammals. And I see some hair on the hill to the left, just above the tree that's been pushed over. If they were feeling threatened, they'd back into one of the burrows with tusks facing outwards. You'd never, ever disturb a warthog that's backed itself into a burrow. Their tusks are very, very sharp. They are not afraid to use them. They've been known to back down lions. Think about the size difference, it's pretty impressive. You also do not disturb the white rhino that's out to the right. That's just because they're massive. And towards the front right corner of the truck, you might see some eggs in the grasses. Those are ostrich eggs. Largest of the bird eggs. They weigh about 3 pounds each. Unfortunately, it kind of looks like they're the leftovers of the bird eggs. I don't see any ostrich paying attention to them. Ostrich are actually really good parents. They're communal nesters. The girls all get together to lay eggs into one nest so that all of the ostrich can take turns taking care of the eggs until the little ones hatch. But ostrich can get into some rather large groups. There's almost always leftovers in every single group of ostrich eggs. This is going to bring us out towards the warden's outpost. Recently, the warden and his staff have started caring for Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, that's really great for the reserve for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're adorable. Secondly, because they're so much smaller than some of their other cousins, they take up less space and they're cheaper to raise, but they still provide very sweet goat milk that they can either drink or can be sold to offset costs of living. But another really cool thing about dwarf goats is they tend to eat a lot of things that other hoofstock will not eat. They'll eat brambles and roughage, and that clears up a pasture, allowing easier access to food for other animals. I think it's really cool when the people and the animals living together are improving the areas that they're living in. And that's really what a lot of the conservation efforts are aiming towards. And we did get a chance to talk about a couple of the conservation projects that our reserve has been working on. But if you'd like more information, head to one of the local merchandise locations. They can give you a little bit more information about some of the projects we've been involved in. They can also let you know how you can help out too. But one of the biggest ways that we can help the animals we love is by helping others to learn to love them too. Hopefully I was able to give you some new information. Feel free to spread it around. Sharing your knowledge and excitement about the animals is something very special that we can all share together. It sounds like we're pretty close to the village. Before I let you go, for any wilderness explorers, today you've been riding aboard the Simba 1. That's Simba, the Swahili word for lion. S-I-M-B-A and the number 1. Once again, my name's Kristen. You don't need to know that for the wilderness explorers, but it's been my pleasure.